Hello and welcome. This is Rooflemonger, and my friends, this video here is my 10 essential tips for you to learn in Street Fighter 6. So whether you've played some Street Fighter games before, or if you're just completely new to the franchise, this video here is to tell you some things that may not be obvious out of the gate, and just help you and your Street Fighter 6 gameplay experience. I also have some other videos for you, say like a beginner's guide if you're a true beginner. You can find that linked in the video description. But otherwise, let's just get right to it, and let's start with tip number 1. So our first tip has to do with the punish counter mechanic. So in Street Fighter 6, anytime you hit the recovery of a move, you get a punish counter, and it does a little bit more damage, and on the frame data end of things, it also gives you more frame advantage. And we can get into a lot of the weeds with that, but this tip isn't about that. It's the fact that punish counter actually changes how certain moves work. So when Ken mashes his uppercut, most moves, you'll see that punish counter flash. And sometimes when you get the punish counter, the move changes. So normally, say stand heavy punch, right? By itself, it doesn't do much, but if it hits as a punish counter, it knocks the enemy down. Say Zangief's forward heavy kick. So forward heavy kick, normally it's an overhead, that's good, and does knock down, but on punish counter, it bounces the enemy, so you can actually get a little bit of a combo. As you can see right here, right? So it gives you a little bit of a combo. So it really behooves you to check which buttons do what. Generally, it'll be your heavy buttons, heavy punch, heavy kick. That'll get property changes if anything does. For some, pretty universal, the sweep. If you get a punch counter with a sweep, it's going to be an extra long knockdown. But some lead to optimal punishes, like say Zangief's stand heavy kick as our example. So by itself, it's got all right range. It's also blessed to be advantage on block. Not many moves are advantage on block in this game. But if you use it as a punish counter, it's just straight up launcher now. And it can only launch as a punish counter, not as a regular hit, not as a counter hit, only as a punish counter. And then we can use that to get some pretty optimal damage in. So let me give you an example. So say again here, spammy uppercut Ken, right? Gives you a lot of time to think about the punish. So we'll use stand heavy kick and the juggle as our punish. And there we go. Some pretty substantial damage, I think you would agree. And we can maximize this further, say if it was in the corner. So say again, nasty old man Ken, he's just gonna wake up Shoryu in the corner. So here, you can see that's pretty substantial, right? That's about half-life, right? We used the bounce we showed earlier from the forward heavy kick to create a bit more of an optimal corner combo. And it's not always about punishing uppercuts and all that kind of stuff, right? Some punish counters have much more applications just in the general back and forth of Street Fighter. Like say Lily's stand heavy punch. So for what it is, it has good range, and it also has fairly fast startup. So it's actually ideal for punishing buttons that whiff. And in that scenario here, since it causes a bit of a crumple knockdown, we can follow up directly. And there you have it. So maybe not as fancy as that Zangief combo, but very applicable in a real match situation. Just wait for them to whiff a button, because it'll happen, especially in that back and forth, and hit your button just to punish it, and you'll also get some decent reward out of it. So the punish counter as a mechanic is very important. It's much more than just, get a few more points of damage. It can lead to whole new combo routes and whole new scenarios. So for whatever character you're playing, go out and make sure you just check which punish counters they have. Our next tip is about how fireball wars work. So the fireball war, you've seen this a million times over the decades in Street Fighter, right? People throwing fireballs, they clash and go on from there. And you probably know, generally speaking, the fireball that has more hits will win in the end. So Ryu, he can make his regular fireball 2 hits with the Denjin install, and therefore in this basic scenario, he'll win. But however, this time around, the rules are a little different in Street Fighter 6. So here Ken doing the EX 2-hit move, right? So I have my own 2-hit fireball. So let's try them against each other. Oh. Well, what happened there? They're both 2 hits. And Ken beat mine and still had both hits left over. Under normal Street Fighter logic, they should cancel each other out, but that is not how it works in Street Fighter 6. In Street Fighter 6, overdrive projectiles, EX projectiles, will always win out over normal projectiles no matter what every single time. Another example, DJ, someone who has a natural 2-hitting projectile. If I do my overdrive fireball versus his, it blows through both hits and still has 2 hits at the end. So basically speaking, the person who's willing to spend meter in a fireball war will always win out and win out with the full all hits version of their fireball. So if you are playing a fireball character, please keep that in mind, that in the fireball war scenario, it's very worth your time to spend that meter. Now for our next tip, let's talk the drive meter. So the drive meter, well, it does just about everything in this game, right? Parries, dashes, the cool stuff like drive impact, and of course, naturally, your overdrive moves. So the one really cool thing about anything related to the drive meter is that you can spend meter you don't got. So what do I mean by that? Let's take an overdrive move here, DJ's Fireball. So it takes 2 meters, just like anything else, right? And here we are, we got like one little smidge left. So, 2 meters, we can't afford it, but you know what? Yeah, we can. We can afford it. Now, obviously, we're in the burnout state, which is not ideal, but you are allowed to spend meter you don't have. Like, say, from a drive rush cancel. So it normally takes 3 bars. And here we are with just a smidgen of a meter left. And, well, we can still do it. And why this is useful is because this exact thing, spending meter you don't have, might be the difference between you winning or losing a round. So what I'm about to show you isn't necessarily the most optimal combo, but it's to give you an idea of what is possible. So at the very end of that combo there, just to sneak in just a little bit more, even though we had 1 single bar left, I canceled the heavy punch into another drive rush, 3 bars, but we only have 1 bar left. But once again, you're allowed to spend what you don't have. And then just use that to just scam in just a little bit extra damage, right? After all the combo scaling and all that, it would just be like a couple points. But a couple points of damage might be the difference between you winning or losing the round, right? So being able to spend what you don't have is very key. And yes, it may lead to burnout, which is very bad, but it's also something you have to take advantage of when the opportunity presents itself. So our next tip has to do, again, with meter, because meter is great. It lets you do all sorts of cool things, right? And we talked about how you probably, well, should not go too crazy with it unless you think you're going to win a round. But the other thing is, you can't take it with you. So I burned out all my meter in this round, right, from the computer. And what's going to happen at the beginning of the next round? We're going to have all of our meter back. So if you are in the ability to close out a round, it is absolutely to your benefit to just simply burn all the meter. You can't take it with you to the next round, so don't even try. So just keep that tip in mind. You can't take it with you, so spend it while you got it, because the next round is a clean slate and everyone starts fresh. So our next tip involves the parry. Parry, as you are probably well aware, is effectively a defensive shield in this game. It'll absorb all the hits coming your way, and that's great. And just so you know, frame data wise, a regular parry is exactly the same as a block. So if the move was already negative, it'll remain negative. If the move was advantage on block, even if you parry it, it will remain advantage. So just so you know. But one thing about the parry that's really good is it removes the need to guess mix-ups. Is the move coming low? Is the move coming high? Is the move coming left? Is the move coming right? Parry doesn't care. It gets every possible angle. So let's use an example here. Jury's going to knock us down, and, well, she's going to go for the overhead. Spoiler, right? So when I wake up, I'm not going to guess. Parry will take care of all the options for me. It'll beat the overhead. Much the same here. Say if she went low a second time, right? Once again, if I wake up with the parry, doesn't matter. Oh, you went low? Cool. It gets the overhead, it gets the low, because it gets everything. Once again, say there's a jump coming, and it's just a little ambiguous which side Jury's going to land on. Who knows, right? She can land left side or right side. It's difficult, I can't tell. So either way, if it's same side, parry doesn't care. If it was, say, a cross-up, parry doesn't care. So if you are worried about a defensive situation, and it's not so much, like a grab or throw or anything, but you just know something's coming, but high, low, left, right, you don't know which way it's coming. Parry beats every possible angle, so just keep that in mind. But once again, parry does care about throws. You are not going to get out of the throw, right? And throws get bonus damage if they throw you out of a parry. So while it beats most aspects of the game, it doesn't beat every aspect of the game. Now, directly following from the last tip, let's talk about one more thing about parries. Parry, as a defensive mechanic and also as an offensive mechanic going for the drive rush out of the parry, you can actually hold it way in advance for timing purposes. In that last example, and you can see my inputs are on here, we worried about potentially getting hit with the overhead after we got knocked down, right? So after I get knocked down, I can just hold parry, and on the first possible frame that I wake up, parry will activate it. I can hold it way in advance of when I actually need it to come out. So that's very handy. So anytime you get knocked down and that's one option you want to go for, you can do it. It'll come out the first possible frame. It'll always work. It'll always activate. So now, much the same for combos. Many combos you can drive rush after the fact, a raw drive rush, and then extend the combo some way, somehow. So the thing to note here is after, say, this specific launch, I can already be holding parry way ahead of time. And then while I'm holding parry, just literally mash forward to get the drive rush out early. And it'll come out the first possible frame once again. So there's a very generous buffer here to let you get what you're looking for. So just hold it and then just mash and wait for the time to happen. And when it finally is able to dash out from the parry, you'll get it immediately. So that makes certain juggle combos like this much easier than you might otherwise think. Now, the next tip is talking about the burnout state. So the burnout state's about the worst place you can be in Street Fighter 6, just straight up. You don't want to be here, right? But it's going to happen eventually. There's no avoiding it. But the thing is, you actually have some ability to govern how long you'll be in the burnout state, as certain actions you do will make it either go faster or slower in your recovery. So when you're in the burnout state, one thing to note is defensive play is penalized. Walking backwards makes you recover slower. Jumping, as you can see here, the bar, it kind of slows down every time we jump, right? It just stops draining, or rather stops filling up when you jump. So walking backwards and jumping are penalized when you're in burnout. You're going to keep the defensive bad state going on longer than it would already be. Now, conversely, walking forward actually helps speed up the recovery of the burnout state. And more importantly than walking forward, hitting the enemy will give you little chunks of recovery of the burnout state. So while it absolutely sucks to be in, and you don't want to be in it, being aggressive will get you out of it faster than being defensive. I know, considering what the burnout state is and all the advantages the opponent gets, they have more frame advantage, their specials and super start doing chip damage. It behooves you to be defensive, absolutely, right? Because, like, you're in a bad spot. But if you are more aggressive, either by moving forward or attacking the enemy, your ability to recover from burnout will happen faster and faster than if you walk backwards and jump. So defensive bad, offensive good when you're in burnout. Well, at least for the purposes of getting out of the burnout state anyways. So keep that in mind. Now, our next tip has to do with training mode itself. So if you want to get better at fighting games, training mode is generally something you're going to want to go into, right? That's just how it works. But the thing is, this training mode specifically makes life a lot easier, especially for beginner players. So for an example, you want to stop a jump. So for me, normally all these years, I'd record the dummy just like, doing a jump, have that done, and then I'd play against the recording and practice my timing against the replay of my own recording, right? A lot of things in the training mode is now graduated in properly. So if we go here, simple training settings. There's actually so many things here that help. One of them, anti-air practice, same example, right? So we click that and it says Ryu will randomly switch between neutral jumps, forward jumps, and you have to practice intercepting them. So if we try that out, it's going to give us a specific training mode just to worry about jumps. You don't have to worry about recordings or whatever. It'll just do it automatically for you. And now this way, you can practice anti-airs and you don't have to worry about setting up recordings or whatever. You can just do it straight from the menu because it's there. And also, there's some layers to it. Like, see, he's doing neutral jump to fake you out, all that kind of stuff. He's not necessarily going for it every time. It's teaching you the presence of mind you need to recognize the threat. When he neutral jumps, it's safe. And when he forward jumps, that's when you should try to attack and punish the jump. And there's so many of these, like say drive impact defense. Drive impact, a lot of people struggle against it, right? So he will just randomly do it and it'll give you an opportunity to react back and drive impact back. So you don't need elaborate personal settings like so many other fighting games over the years. Street Fighter gives you a lot of common scenarios, combos, anti-air, throw escape, swift punishes. They're all directly built into the game in training mode. So please, by all means, try these out, as learning these tools will absolutely 100% make you a better player. Now for our next tip here, what we're going to do is go back to our pal, the drive rush. We talked a lot about drive mechanics, but the drive mechanics are a lot of what Street Fighter 6 is, so this is important stuff. So the drive rush, as you've probably seen by now, lets you do all sorts of combos, right? Lets you extend combos, all that kind of stuff. But a reason why it lets you extend combos as well as it does is because it gives the juggle property to anything. So the combo example that we just used here, going for Luke's stand heavy kick, and after the fact we juggle with an uppercut, right? And that's great. A little bit extra damage, that's fantastic. But the thing is, normally, that stand heavy kick can never connect, ever, ever, ever. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work. It cannot connect. So certain moves that usually juggle in Street Fighter, like say, your uppercuts, that connects fine, right? Because that is a move meant to juggle after the fact. But the knee can never in any way, shape, or form connect, and can only connect thanks to the drive rush. And it's not just the knee. It could be stand light punch. It could be stand medium punch. It could be stand light kick. It could be crouching medium kick. It doesn't matter. Any button, light, medium, heavy, punch, kick, whatever, all can juggle off a drive rush. Granted, as long as it actually connects. If the enemy is too high up in the air or already touched the ground, it's not going to change that, right? But the juggle properties will be granted to any button you use. So that is what really makes a lot of combos go in Street Fighter 6. So just food for thought, right? Even if it's a basic extension, say like something like this, a basic extension can give you an extra couple 100 points of damage you otherwise would not get. So the drive rush is very key for combos and juggles. And our final tip again refers to training mode. So in training mode, we have the ability here to turn on the frame meter. And it tells you the frame data. And some fighting games tell you the frame data. Not every fighting game does. And, some games, they make you pay to see the frame data. But thankfully, it's free out of the gate in Street Fighter 6. The beautiful part about this is it's the most in-depth frame knowledge you're going to get in any fighting game. So not only do I know stand heavy punch for Luke is -1 on block, I also know, thanks to this frame data meter, that it has 9 frames of startup, 3 active frames, and 23 frames of recovery. And now, knowing that, okay, I also know it's -1 because the actual initial hit puts the enemy in 25 frames of recovering state. And therefore, we recover just 1 frame after they do with our own recovery. This info is all there. It's all color-coded. And going back to a previous tip here, in the simple training settings, the frame data meter, they explain this. They show you how all the colors work, what color means what, and that's fantastic. Like say here at the bottom, we kind of have these white and yellowish striped shapes here, right? Projectile invincibility period. So say if Manon does her spin. Oh, okay. That spin has a projectile invincibility period. Thanks to the frame data, we now know. So thanks to this, I just learned I can go through fireballs, so I'm going to do my best to go through fireballs when appropriate. Say Luke here. Regular uppercut has no special kind of like strike invincibility normally, but if we do the enhanced OD version, we can see the colors start changing. The beginning colors are white, indicating it's full invincible. The regular uppercut, not so much. You can see the green startup frames, but with the OD version of the move, you can see the white startup frames, meaning it's full invincible. And once again, the colors let us know here. It's right here in the menu. But yeah, this is super, super, super important. And once you start doing basic math here with the frame data meter, we can figure some stuff out. So like his forward throw leaves us at 19 frames of advantage. That's a lot of advantage. Okay, now let's math this out. 19 frames of advantage. Well, I know my overhead for Luke takes 21 frames to go off. On the 21st frame, that is where the little red frame is. That's our first active frame where it can connect. So, okay, so 19 frames of advantage, 21 frame startup. Now, wait a second. What's the fastest attacks in the game? Well, the fastest attacks in the game are 4 frame startup. So if we then throw the enemy, go for the overhead right away, that means a 4 frame move can never beat us. Just simple math, right? So now we have the beginnings of a setup. So after our throw here, Manon is going to go immediately for her jab. And if we go for the overhead right away, because that jab's 4 frames, we always win. So now, just thanks to simple math, we know now we can safely toss this out and beat any button they're going to press, unless, say, it's an invincible move, like an EX uppercut, right? And just the numbers and the frame data meter will teach you all these things kind of intuitively. All you got to do is do the moves, look at the numbers, start doing some simple math, and basically, it all kind of works itself together. So those are 10 essential tips to help you out in your Street Fighter 6 journey. There's a lot of other guides and content already on the channel and a lot more to come, so check that out. There's also a dedicated playlist for a lot of that stuff, so that'll be linked here at the end of the video. And that's about it. There's a lot to be learned in Street Fighter 6 over the coming weeks, months, and years, and I hope you have a lot of fun with the game. And otherwise, well, we're at the end of the video, so thank you very much for watching. Hope this video has found you well, and go out and play some Street Fighter.